What's up, you guys? It's Workout Wednesday, and here's your workout for today. Your warm-up is 6 minutes long with 20 seconds of work and 10 seconds transition between the exercises. You have jumping jacks, mountain climbers, seal jacks, skaters, plank jacks, and high knees. So you do that 20 seconds each, 10-second rest in between, and then you repeat for 6 minutes total. The circuit itself is 4 exercises: the push-up variations, squat variations, Superman extension variations, and bridge variations. So each set will be just a little bit different, so you can choose which ones you want to do. Otherwise, you can always refer back to set 1. So I hope you like it, enjoy, and let me know what you think. Thanks.
We're starting here with your warm-up with traditional jumping jacks. Stay light on your toes as you're jumping. Keep your arms fully extended, chest open, and belly drawn in tight. We're moving here for 20 seconds of work with a 10-second rest or transition in between each exercise. Next up, we have the mountain climber. Start in your plank position with your hands under your shoulders and keep a nice straight plank the entire time you're going into your mountain climbers. You're going to use your lower core to drive your knee up and in toward the chest and shoulders, and stay light on your toes again as you're jumping back and forth. Keep your shoulders down and away from your ears and your core nice and tight as you're driving your knees up and in. Next up is a jumping jack variation called seal jacks. The only difference is your arms are going to be parallel with the floor, giving you a nice chest and shoulder opener as you're jumping into your jumping jack. Stay light on your toes again while relaxing the shoulder blades down your back and staying nice and tall. Again, keeping your belly drawn in tight, and be gentle with your chest and shoulder opener as you're bringing your arms out to the side. Next up, we have skater plyos. This is one of my favorites to work on stability, balance, coordination. So start in the center. You're going to jump side to side, landing softly and with control on each leg. As you're landing, you want to try to find the balance by shifting your weight into your hip and glute as you land on each leg. Keep your back nice and straight, so aiming your hips back and your chest forward, and keep your shoulders down and away from the ears. Next up, we have plank jacks. Start in a perfect plank, whether you're on your forearms or on your hands. Maintain a neutral spine and control your core and glutes as you're jumping in and out, just like a jumping jack. You want to maintain your plank as much as possible, avoiding any bouncing in the hips and into your lower back. You don't have to jump very wide, but the more important thing to focus on is your control. Next up, we have high knees. Stand up very tall, bring your arms to about 90 degrees, and you want to keep your shoulders back, keep your chest up, and think of using your lower core to drive your knees up as high as you can, just above hip height. You want to still stay nice and light on your toes and stay as tight as you can, because you want to get the most control out of that chopping motion. Bringing it back around again to round 2 of traditional jumping jacks. You may be starting to get a little bit tired into your warm-up, but this is just the beginning. So again, focus on your next round. Stay light on your toes, stay as tall as you can, open up as big as possible to get those shoulders nice and warmed up. The belly drawn in, and you're moving with control at all times. Next up is mountain climbers. Round 2 of mountain climbers. Again, start with your perfect plank. Stay controlled with your movements, using your lower core to drive your knees up and in toward the chest and shoulders. I'm going to slide your shoulder blades down and away from the ears so that you're not hunching while in the plank position. Focus on something forward or the edge of the mat in front of you. Next up, we have seal jacks. Again, round 2 of seal jacks, you might be starting to get a little bit more warmed up, but remind yourself to keep your shoulder blades down and away from the ears belly drawn in tight, and stay light on your toes. You're still getting into that gentle stretch into the chest and shoulders, so again, be careful in the opening and closing of the arms. Next up, the second round of skater plyos. Same idea. Start in the center and you're jumping side to side, landing softly into the landing leg. You want to try to find the load into the hip and glute as you're landing on each side. Keep your spine nice and long, so you're aiming your chest forward and your hips back, keeping your spine as straight as you can. We're moving into the second round of plank jacks, and again, you can do plank jacks on your forearms or on your hands. Just make sure you're starting off with your perfect plank, and don't worry about the range of motion of the jump itself. You just want to stay light on your toes and use the control of your core and your glutes and your legs to maintain the control of the movement. This is your last set of high knees. Stay up as tall as you can, shoulder blades back, chest up tall. Use your arms and your elbows to drive back as you're driving your knees up. Use your core to drive the knees up to about hip height. And don't be afraid to chop those elbows straight back. You're still using your core, your lats, to drive your elbows back to control your movement. So now we're moving into your main circuit, consisting of 4 exercises with a workload of 40 seconds and 20 seconds rest in between. Starting with your push-up, you want to start with your perfect plank. And since you're here for 40 seconds, you do want to make sure you're pacing yourself throughout the entire time you're moving. I would say focus more on form first, before depth, and before the amount of push-ups you're actually doing. Make sure you're still continuing to check in with your plank every time you're coming up. Control your core, control your legs, control your glutes, and stay as tight as you can as you push the ground away. Next up, we have bodyweight squats using the blue mini band. You can use any mini band resistance, but I use the blue so you can easily see it in the video. You're going to start with your feet shoulder distance apart with a slight turnout with your toes. You want to keep the resistance band taut, so you're driving your knees away from each other to keep the band nice and tight. From here, you're going to sit back, keeping your spine as long and tall as you can. So shoulder blades back and away from the ears, and keep the belly drawn in towards your spine. So you're engaging your core the entire time on your way down and on your way up. At the top of the squat, bring your hips underneath you and squeeze your glutes and core. The next movement is a Superman extension. So lay on your belly, extending the legs all the way back and extending the arms all the way overhead or in front of you. I usually have my clients keep their thumbs up the entire time. Every time you come up, you want to think of extending through the feet in a long line through the crown of your head. So don't think of coming up toward the ceiling, but extend more lengthwise. As you're lifting your legs, you're using your glute and hamstring to extend the legs. And as you're lifting the arms, think of the upper and mid back and behind the shoulders. That's where you want to try to really lift the arms from. Try to maintain a neutral neck position by looking in front of you towards the mat. Next up, we have a glute bridge with your feet elevated. Lay flat on the floor, scoot the shoulders down and away from the ears so you're not hunching in that laying down position, and bring your feet elevated on top of a box. Your feet, knees, and hips should be aligned. And as you bring your hips all the way up, you're actually using your glutes and your hamstrings, so the back of your legs in order to do the lifting. At the same time, especially at the top position, keep your lower core drawn in tight towards the spine to avoid overarching in the lower back. Your arms can be flat on the floor next to you in a low A position, or you can bring your hands up with your upper arm against the ground, or you can bring your arms straight up toward the ceiling for a little more challenge. You're moving nice and controlled on the way up and all the way down. The next exercise is a push-up variation called negatives, because we're focusing on the down phase of your push-up. So this is a good way to practice regular or traditional push-ups if you haven't been able to do regular or traditional push-ups. It's just a different variation. So start in your perfect plank. Remember to keep your shoulders down and away from the ears. Squeeze your glutes, squeeze your legs, squeeze your core, so everything is nice and tight. And you want to try to maintain that perfect plank on your way all the way down to the ground. And you're going to end up on the actual ground, so on your belly. And the moment you make full contact on the ground, you're going to pop right back up, find your perfect plank again. This is really similar to a transition in a Sun Salutation or Vinyasa yoga class where they're going into their Chaturanga position. So if you're familiar with that, that might help you with this negative. Next up is a floor bridge variation. This time you're going to stay on the floor with your feet flat, knees bent, lay on your back and shoulders down and away from the ears. You're going to cross your right ankle over your left knee. Make sure you're keeping that kind of figure 4 position as you're going into your floor bridge. You may find a nice big stretch in one of the hips or the inner thigh. So you're nice and controlled in both movements, the up phase and the down phase. When you're transitioning 20 seconds in, bringing your left foot or left ankle onto your right knee, you want to ensure that you're doing about the same amount of reps as your first side. You might find one side is tighter than the other, and that's totally okay. Just something to notice throughout your floor bridges. Next up is a Superman extension variation called swimmers or swimmer arms. When you get set up on the floor on your belly, extend your arms in front of you with your thumbs facing up. Keep your shoulders away from your ears so you're not hunching. And you're going to lift opposite arm and leg. So you're lifting the same exact way you did before by extending the leg out using your glute and hamstring, and then extending the arm up using the upper back behind the shoulders and everything in the mid back. You're lifting opposite arm and leg away from the ground and still thinking of overall length from the feet all the way through the fingertips. Now we're moving into the plank push-up. So our push-up variation, this is the last round. The startup position is the same as before. So start in your perfect plank, whether you're on your forearms or on your high plank. Here we're going to start on the forearms, and I'm going to start with the right side first. Right, left, right, left. We're going to keep that rotation as you push up and as you come down. So right, left, right, left. I'm doing 5 on this side, and then I'm going to switch to the left, right order. Make sure that when you're bringing your hand underneath you, your hand is actually going underneath your chest and shoulders, and you're pushing with your chest and the rest of your body. So you're not just leaning into your hand on that one side. Maintain your plank as much as possible because your weight will shift or want to shift every time you switch over to one side. Next up, we have our last squat variation. It's the same rhythm as a squat jack, except this time instead of jumping into the center, you're going to rotate your lower body only to about 90 degrees. So it's a quick switch to that 90-degree position, and then you're landing right back into that low squat. You want to try to maintain a neutral spine, especially as you're landing into that low squat. And then your rotation is coming quickly from the hips and the legs. You're rotating about 90 degrees. So if you're facing one wall, you just want to try to rotate your hips and your feet to face the other wall to your side. It's a quick switch, out and back in, landing soft in each squat. Next up, we have the Superman Snow Angel. It's our extension variation. The setup is still the same. Lay on your belly and extend the legs straight out and back behind you. Your arms are extended in front of you, right by your ears, thumbs facing up. Again, check in with your shoulders and make sure you're not hunching in this position. I'm going to keep my legs down on the ground this time, focusing on the upper and mid back. As I extend the arms up and away from the ground, I'm going to try to keep the arms extended by using your upper back and behind the shoulders to stay lifted with the arms. The arms are going to come up and away from the ground and circle out and back just like a snow angel, staying elevated as a return forward towards the top of the mat and then back down if you need a rest. You can do this without the rest in between, but focus again on that upper back and behind the shoulders, all those muscles back there. Last, we have another single leg floor bridge or glute bridge variation. This time your top leg is going to be extended toward the ceiling. So you want to keep that top leg active. So once you lay down on the ground, again, your knees are bent and your feet are about hip distance apart or shoulder distance apart. Your feet are parallel. If you're using a mat, it's easier to align your feet to be parallel with each other. As you're setting up, you're extending your legs straight up toward the ceiling. So keep that leg actively reaching and stretching toward the ceiling, or as straight as you can. It doesn't have to be toward the ceiling. In your transition between the two sides, hold your bridge up and try to maintain that neutral position with your feet parallel, about shoulder distance apart. And again, extending that top leg as straight as you can toward the ceiling. When you've done about the same amount of reps on each side, you can hold that bridge for the remainder of the time. Nice work, you're all set.